What if I told you that some of the debt you've been worrying about for years, the kind that keeps you up at night, you may not have to pay at all? I know that sounds impossible, but after decades of working with seniors just like you, I've seen the same heartbreaking pattern again and again. Older adults drowning in debt they never legally owed in the first place, from collection calls that feel like harassment to the fear of losing your home, your benefits, or your dignity. It's overwhelming, and no one should face that alone. I'm Linda, a lawyer who's helped hundreds of seniors navigate debt and defend their rights. In this video, I'm going to walk you through 6 types of debt you may be able to legally walk away from. No tricks, no loopholes, just the facts. Some of these may surprise you, but knowing them could save you thousands of dollars and years of unnecessary stress. Before we get started, I'd love to know, where are you watching this from and what time of day is it? Drop a quick comment below, even if it's just a quiet moment in your day. I truly appreciate you sharing it with me. If this content is helpful, don't forget to hit subscribe so you won't miss the next important video. Section 1. Credit card debt. That has passed the time limit for filing a lawsuit. It often starts with a phone call. You're making breakfast, reading the morning paper, maybe watching the news out of Cleveland or Phoenix when the phone rings. The voice on the other end sounds official. They say you owe money, a credit card balance from 10, maybe even 15 years ago. And unless you pay, they threaten to sue you, or worse, they claim your Social Security benefits could be garnished. In that moment, your heart skips. Your breath tightens. You think, is that even legal? This exact scene plays out for thousands of older Americans every year. Many are in their late 60s, 70s, even 80s, trying to enjoy retirement in places like Tampa, Dallas, or rural Pennsylvania, only to find themselves being pulled back into financial stress they thought was behind them. But here's what most seniors in America don't realize, and it's something debt collectors hope you'll never learn. In the United States, every state has a legal time limit for how long a creditor can take you to court. It's called the statute of limitations, and once that period passes, the debt becomes what's known as time barred. This means quite literally that you can no longer be sued for that debt, not in court, not in small claims, nowhere. Now, the rules do vary by state. For example, in California or New York, the statute might be 4 or 6 years. In places like Alabama or Missouri, it could be shorter. But once that clock runs out, the creditor loses their legal leverage, even if they still try to scare you into paying. And this is where the emotional side of the story really unfolds. Because for many older adults, being told you owe something, even falsely, creates guilt. You've spent a lifetime working hard, maybe raising a family in the Midwest, paying your taxes, keeping your promises. So when someone accuses you of being in default, it can feel like a personal failure, even if it's not. Debt collectors are trained to use this against you. They'll say things that tug at your values like, don't you want to make this right, or it's the honorable thing to do. But what they're not saying is this: if your debt is expired and you accidentally admit to it, or even make a tiny $5 payment, you could reset the statute of limitations all over again. That's right. Just one wrong word on the phone, and the clock starts ticking from zero. This is why seniors across the country, from Arizona retirees to New England grandparents, need to know their rights. If someone calls you about an old credit card debt, the first and most important step is simple. Do not confirm anything over the phone. Don't agree. Don't argue. Don't explain. Just say, please send me all details in writing, and hang up. Once you get the paperwork, check the date of the last payment. Compare it with your state's statute of limitations. If the time has passed, you are under no legal obligation to pay. And here's something else no one tells you. Many seniors live on fixed incomes, Social Security, a small pension, maybe a bit of savings. In most cases, these are legally protected from debt collection. But the stress, the anxiety, that's what really does the damage. Chronic financial stress is linked to high blood pressure, heart disease, poor sleep, and even memory problems in older adults. The fear of what might happen becomes a daily shadow, stealing the peace that should define your golden years. But it doesn't have to be this way. Knowledge is power, especially when it protects your dignity. You've earned the right to rest, to breathe easier, to know that the law can still work for you, not just against you. If no one else is telling you that, then I will, because you deserve to know the truth. So the next time that phone rings and someone from a block number says you owe a debt from 2009, take a deep breath. Let them talk, then calmly say, put it in writing and hang up. You're not just protecting your wallet, you're protecting your health, your peace of mind, and your independence right here in America, where that still matters. Section 2, medical debt written or sold. It's a story I hear all the time, and maybe it's happened to you too. You go in for a medical procedure, maybe it's your heart, maybe your hip, or maybe just an urgent scan your doctor said couldn't wait. You trust the system, you have Medicare, maybe a supplement plan, and you think, I've done my part, I've paid it my whole life. But then weeks later, the bills start showing up. One from the hospital, another from the lab, then another for anesthesia, and maybe one more from radiology, all separate, all confusing, all saying you owe money. Sometimes it's hundreds, sometimes it's thousands. And just when you're starting to feel better physically, the phone starts ringing. It's a debt collector. They say you owe this medical bill and they want payment now. Some are aggressive, some are polite, but the message is the same: pay or face consequences. Here's the truth most seniors in America don't know, and it's important you hear this clearly. Not all medical debt is legally collectible. Many hospitals, especially large ones across the U.S., quietly write off unpaid bills for tax purposes. They often sell that debt to third-party collectors for pennies on the dollar, sometimes just a few cents per $100 owed. These collectors didn't treat you. They weren't there when you were in the emergency room in St. Louis or recovering from surgery in Jacksonville. But now they claim you owe them money. And here's the twist: they may not even have the paperwork to prove it. Under U.S. law, debt collectors must provide written validation of a debt if you ask for it. That means proof, not just a phone call. No senior should ever agree to pay a medical bill until they've received full documentation, reviewed the dates, and made sure it isn't a duplicate or expired obligation. Another fact most people don't hear about, especially not from hospitals, is that nonprofit medical centers are required by law to offer financial assistance to low-income or retired patients. It's called charity care, and it's been around for decades, but hospitals rarely advertise it. They wait for patients to ask, and most people, especially older adults, never even know it exists. It's not your fault. You were taught to pay your bills to honor what you owe. But no one told you that some of these debts aren't legally enforceable or could have been reduced or even forgiven. And all that pressure you're feeling, that heaviness in your chest, the tension in your shoulders, that's not just the debt, that's stress. And science's clear chronic stress raises blood pressure, weakens the immune system, and increases the risk of heart disease and depression, especially in older adults. You deserve better. You deserve peace of mind. So here's what you do. If a collector calls, don't panic. Ask for validation in writing. Don't make any payment until you're certain the debt is real, the amount is correct, and the collector has legal standing. And if the bill comes from a nonprofit hospital, ask if you qualify for assistance. You might be surprised by how much relief is available if you just ask. You've worked too hard for too many years to let confusion or fear take over your health and your finances. Take it one step at a time. Ask questions, demand answers, and remember, in America, your dignity doesn't disappear just because you turn 65. Section 3. Debt in the name of the deceased spouse. Only grief has its own timeline. It doesn't follow a calendar or a schedule. One moment you're holding your partner's hand in the hospital room. The next you're standing in the quiet kitchen in Missouri or Ohio, wondering how life can just continue. And just when you think the hardest part is behind you, the phone rings. A stranger's voice on the other end says your late husband or wife had a debt, a credit card, maybe a personal loan. They speak quickly, firmly, And then comes the line that cuts deep, "You're responsible now." In that moment, many seniors across America feel two things at once, sorrow and shame, because you were raised to take care of things, to do what's right. And now someone is implying that if you don't pay, you're dishonoring the memory of the one you love most. But let me say this gently and clearly, you are not legally required to pay a debt that wasn't in your name. In the United States, the law is very clear. If your spouse had a debt that was solely in their name, and you did not co-sign or apply together, you are not personally responsible. That debt belongs to the estate of the deceased, not to the surviving spouse. What does that mean in practice? It means the creditor can try to recover money from your partner's estate from their savings, any property, or other remaining assets. But they cannot take your pension, your Social Security, or your personal savings. Still, collectors often use tactics that have more to do with emotion than legality. They'll say things like, "Don't you want to do what he would have wanted?" Or, "She always paid her bills on time. Wouldn't you like to continue that?" They count on your heart being heavier than your logic. They hope your grief will stop you from asking questions. And this emotional pressure isn't just manipulative, it's harmful. Research shows that grief-related stress in older adults can lead to insomnia, high blood pressure, and even immune system dysfunction. The added weight of financial intimidation only worsens the toll on your health. So here's what you do if this happens to you or to someone you care about. First, ask a simple question. Whose name was this debt under? If it wasn't yours, make it clear, "This is not my debt. Please stop contacting me." Second, keep a written record of every call, letter, or voicemail. If the calls continue, report them to the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau or to your state's Attorney General. You don't have to argue. You don't have to justify. You simply have to protect your peace, something every senior in America has a right to. Because growing older in this country should be about more than just survival. It should be about dignity, about rest, and about remembering your loved one without being punished for their passing. You've already lost enough. Don't let anyone make you feel guilty for something that was never yours to carry. Section 4, Federal Student Loan. Debt can be forgiven. For many Americans, the word student loans brings to mind young adults fresh out of college trying to find their footing. But what most people don't realize is that a growing number of seniors in the U.S. are still carrying student loan debt well into their 60s, 70s, and even beyond. Some borrowed later in life to return to school themselves. Others, like countless parents from Michigan to New Mexico, took out Parent Plus loans to help their children chase the dream of a college degree. It was an act of love, one made with hope, not hesitation. But now in retirement, that decision feels heavier. The bills still come. The interest keeps growing. And for many older adults living on a fixed income, it's not just frustrating, it feels defeating. But here's something very few seniors are ever told. If you've become totally and permanently disabled, or if the child you borrowed for has passed away, your federal student loan debt may be legally discharged, meaning wiped out in full. This isn't a loophole. It's a federal program called Total and Permanent Disability Discharge, or TPD. And it exists because the government recognizes that when your health or your family circumstances change drastically, your debt shouldn't follow you into suffering. To qualify, you need to show documentation that confirms your disability. That can come from your physician, the Social Security Administration, or the Department of Veterans Affairs. Each route has its own process, but all lead to the same outcome: relief. And that relief is more than financial. When you're carrying thousands in student debt on top of medical bills, housing costs, and prescription expenses, the weight doesn't just sit in your mailbox. It settles in your chest. It affects your blood pressure, your sleep, even your relationships. Recent studies in American seniors have shown a direct connection between unresolved debt and chronic stress. That stress can increase inflammation, suppress your immune response, and even worsen memory loss. And yet so many older adults suffer in silence, not knowing help is available or believing it's too complicated to pursue. It's not. The first step is to contact your loan servicer, the company that manages your federal student loan. Ask specifically about the TPD discharge program. They are required by law to guide you through the process, even if they don't volunteer the information up front. You'll need medical documentation, and you'll need to complete a simple application. But once approved, your loan will be forgiven, not deferred, not paused, forgiven. And here's a comforting fact: if you pass away, your federal student loans die with you. Your children's spouse or surviving family members are not responsible for paying them off. That's federal law, and it protects families from financial burden in the face of grief. So if you're a senior living anywhere from rural Arkansas to busy Los Angeles, still getting bills for a loan you thought would bring a better future, please know you are not alone. You gave what you could. You supported your family, your community, and yourself. And now it may be time to let go of a burden that was never meant to follow you this far. Take that first step, ask the question, and give yourself the freedom emotionally and financially that retirement in America should truly offer. Section 5. Debt dismissed in bankruptcy, but still needed to be collected. It's been years since you filed for bankruptcy. You remember the paperwork, the court notices, the long conversations with your lawyer at that little office near Main Street. Maybe it was in Pittsburgh, Phoenix, or a small town in Georgia. You did what you had to do, not out of failure, but out of necessity. You were drowning in debt, and you made a difficult, responsible decision to get a fresh start. You filed Chapter 7. The court approved your discharge, and you finally breathed again. But now it's happening all over again. A letter arrives in the mail, then a voicemail, someone claiming you still owe that old credit card bill. And in that moment, everything you worked to leave behind comes rushing back. The confusion, the shame, the anxiety. But this time, there's something you need to remember: once a debt is discharged in bankruptcy, it no longer legally exists. Federal law is clear. If a debt was included in your Chapter 7 bankruptcy and received a discharge, then no collector has the right to pursue it ever again. They can't call, they can't send letters, and they certainly can't threaten legal action. But here's the heartbreaking part: many debt collectors know that seniors may not understand this. They're hoping you've forgotten, or maybe that you'll feel too intimidated to push back. It happens more often than most people realize. Across the U.S., especially in retirement communities in Florida, California, or even rural Ohio, older adults are being harassed over debts that were legally wiped out years ago. And when those calls start again, the stress can become a health issue. Studies have shown that persistent financial pressure in seniors is linked to elevated cortisol levels, which can increase the risk of heart disease, weaken immune response, and contribute to cognitive decline. That's not just inconvenience. That's long-term harm for something you don't even legally owe anymore. So what should you do if you get one of these calls? First, don't panic. Don't engage emotionally. Instead, go back to your bankruptcy paperwork. Look for the discharge notice. Confirm that the debt in question was listed in your filing. Then inform the collector calmly and clearly that the debt was discharged in bankruptcy and that any further contact is a violation of federal law under the Bankruptcy Code's discharge injunction. You don't need to argue. You don't owe an explanation. If the calls continue, you have the right to report the collector to the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau or even file a lawsuit under the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. Because here in America, bankruptcy is not the end. It's a legal tool, a second chance, and once you've been granted that clean slate, no one has the right to take it away from you. You earned your peace. You made it through the hard part. You took action when you had to. Now it's time to protect what you've rebuilt. So if the phone rings and a stranger tries to drag you back into a chapter you've already closed, remember this: you are not alone. You are not powerless, and you are fully protected under U.S. law. That's not just paperwork. That's your right. And you deserve to live out this chapter of your life with the calm, dignity, and strength you worked so hard to regain. Section 6. Small debts not worth suing. Sometimes the smallest bills cause the biggest stress. Maybe it was a forgotten gym membership from 3 years ago, or a minor phone bill you thought had been canceled. Perhaps it was a small copay from a clinic in Tulsa, Portland, or a family practice in suburban Chicago that never sent a final invoice. Then one day out of nowhere, a letter shows up. Or worse, someone calls saying you owe $87 or $143, or maybe even just $58. They speak with urgency, and you hear phrases like legal action collections or credit report, and that's when the worry begins. For many older adults in the U.S., that one call triggers a storm of anxiety. Because for seniors living on Social Security, a pension or a small 401k, even small debts feel heavy. But here's the truth that rarely gets explained. Most debt collection agencies won't take legal action over very small amounts. The reason is simple. It costs more to sue you than the debt is worth. Filing fees, attorney costs, and administrative work can easily exceed the total amount owed. That's why their strategy usually relies on pressure, not law. They call, they write. They hope you'll feel embarrassed enough to pay it quickly without asking questions. But in America, especially for seniors, you have protections and you have time. So the best thing to do if you receive one of these notices is to pause. Don't rush to pay. Don't offer your banking information. And most importantly, ask for everything in writing. Debt collectors are required by law to provide written proof of what you owe, who the original creditor was, and when the debt began. And if the debt is more than a few years old, it may be past the statute of limitations in your state, meaning they can't take you to court at all. Many older adults also don't realize that income from Social Security disability benefits and certain pensions is legally protected from garnishment in most situations. That means even if a collector were to win a judgment, they often can't touch your main source of income. But that doesn't stop the stress. And over time, that stress can lead to real health consequences, increased blood pressure, poor sleep, and even chest discomfort, all rooted in fear over something as small as a $74 invoice. So if you're a senior in the U.S., and you're facing calls about a small debt, take a breath. You are not powerless. You are not alone. And you deserve peace of mind no matter the number on the paper. As we come to the end of this video, I just want to take a quiet moment with you, like we're sitting together on your porch maybe, with a warm cup of tea nearby, letting everything sink in. Today we walk through some truths that many seniors across America have never been told truths about debt, about your rights, and most importantly, about your peace of mind. We talked about how some debts, old, confusing, or even long forgotten, may no longer be legally enforceable, and how with the right knowledge and a little bit of courage, you can push back against the fear, shame, and pressure that so many collectors try to use against you. You've spent a lifetime working hard, raising families, paying taxes, and caring for others. You deserve to live these years with dignity, not dread. But please remember, if you're dealing with any specific health symptoms, medical conditions, or complex financial situations, you shouldn't walk that road alone. Always talk with your doctor or a trusted advisor who knows your unique needs. These tips are shared for general awareness. If you're facing any health challenges, be sure to check with your doctor before trying anything new. Now, I'd truly love to hear from you. Was there a part of this video that gave you clarity? Maybe something that made you feel understood? Share your thoughts in the comments, or if you're not sure what to say, just type the word hope, because even a small word like that can mean a lot both to you and to someone else reading it today. If this video helped you, or if you believe it might help someone you love, please subscribe to the channel, tap the notification bell, and share this video with a friend, a neighbor, or someone at your church who might need this message. It's one simple way to pay forward what you've learned. No matter where you are, in a quiet corner of Maine, a neighborhood in Texas, or a sunny backyard in California, I want you to remember this: you matter. Your peace, your voice, your well-being, it all matters. Take a deep breath, keep learning, and keep choosing what brings you strength. Until next time, be well, and may peace and hope always find their way to your door.